Let's talk about negotiating your worth. All the way from the beginning of the interview to the final stages where they're giving you an offer. Negotiating is a process and it should involve some back and forth. It's not just a one-off situation. And everything that you do throughout the interview leads you to the point of negotiation, and it can affect your negotiation. The first thing that you want to make sure to do is, if you're in the first interview with the recruiter and this job feels like a little bit of a stretch for you and you think it might have a higher salary than you're currently making right now, you do not want to share your salary. The recruiter will probably ask for your salary, but try to just avoid that question, not answer it. You don't have to answer it. You are not required to answer it. So if this job is a little bit of a stretch, don't share your current salary. If you feel like the job might not meet your salary expectations and you don't want to go through the whole interview without knowing the salary first, I would emphasize that to the recruiter up front. And you can even put that in a message or an email back to the recruiter before you even set up the interview. Hey, I'm a little bit concerned that this role might not meet my salary expectations, and just see what they say from there and if they're willing to share the range. You always want the recruiter to share the range first before you share what you're looking for. And you never, never, never want to share what you're currently making. You can share what you are looking for if you have to, but you don't want to share what you're currently making. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself, because at the end of the day, it's not about what you're currently making. When you get to the final stages of negotiation, what you're currently making is not a negotiation tactic. It's more about the skills that you bring to the table and what you're worth. Throughout the interview, make sure you are clearly articulating the skills that you bring to the table so that you can use them in negotiation later. And then when you get to the final stages and they're getting ready to give you an offer, this is when people start to tense up because they know negotiation might be coming. So just know it's common for people to feel uncomfortable with negotiation. People pleasing can come up into it, where people will feel like they have to take what's offered to them. But if you don't try to negotiate at the offer, you are often leaving money on the table. Even if they offer a stipend or a bonus sign-on, you still want to try to negotiate. Wait until you get the verbal offer before you negotiate. Make sure you're aware of what they're offering you. Once they give that offer to you, if you feel like the offer is not a good fit, you might want to have a strategy in place for how you're going to negotiate. I often tell people to think about plan A and plan B, because negotiation is a process. It's not just one-off. Plan A is, what would you prefer to have? And that could be, if you're mid-level in your career, you can typically negotiate a little bit more. So do you want to negotiate salary? Do you want to negotiate salary and PTO? Do you want to negotiate when the match starts on your 401k? What are some of the things that you feel the need to negotiate? Maybe it's even how often you come into the office. So have your plan A for the things that you would wish for, and then have a plan B for if some of those things aren't met, the things that you would be willing to accept instead. When the person talks to you, they say, okay, here's what we want to offer you. Ask for time to think about it. Do not respond right away, because you want to make sure you're doing your research thoroughly. So typically people get about 5 business days to think about an offer. I have seen less, unfortunately, but I would say that's the average amount of time. Once you have that time, it's time to do your research. Dive in there, check out websites to see what the average salary is in your area for these types of positions. If you haven't already, if you have already, that's great. Talk to friends, talk to family. I know salary can be taboo, but it's important to put it out there and know what to expect. If you know other people in these types of roles, if you can ask them what they have heard people make, if they don't want to share what they make, ask them what they hear people make, what you think other people are making in the field. So just get a lot of information, really dig in there. And then when you go back to the organization, you want to be ready to talk about what people make in the area and your skill set and what you bring to the table, the transferable skills that you bring to the table. Even if you don't have 5 exact years in this field, you still bring transferable skills that are really important. So be ready to talk about those. Tell them your plan A. So typically that's the salary and maybe some flex schedule. So I feel that based on the expectations for salary in this market, which on average seems to be X, and my skill set, my organizational skills, my experience starting a project and leading it all the way to completion, and my experience working on a global level, that indicates that I feel I should be paid X amount based on the expectations required for this position, and list out some of the expectations for the position that you feel are relevant to that salary. And you can say, I feel I should be paid this much and I should be able to work from home on Mondays, whatever it is, because those are my needs. See what they say. They're probably going to say, all right, we're going to think about this. So they'll go back, they'll negotiate that with the organization, and then they'll come back to you and they'll either email you or talk to you on the phone. I always try to make these conversations over the phone because it's a lot easier to negotiate over the phone. But if they insist on it being via email, you're going to want to make sure that you have your clear requirements in an email. And I can even put a template under here to help you. If they come back to you and they say, okay, well, we couldn't quite meet your salary. Here's the salary that we have that we can offer you. And we can let you work from home on Mondays. You can still negotiate. So you can say, okay, well, thank you so much for going to the effort to help me out there and try to negotiate the salary with the internal team. And I feel that since we couldn't meet this mark, I would like a sign-on bonus if possible, or I would like to have 5 extra days of PTO. So that's your chance where if it's not met, it's time for you to negotiate something else. That's your plan B that you can drop to. What else did I want to negotiate? The final thing that I'll say is if you really don't feel comfortable with an offer, question whether or not you feel like you should take it. I know that it can be so hard to turn down an offer, but if you are in the financial position where you can continue to look for another position that's a better fit, don't feel like you have to say yes to something that's not a good fit or that isn't going to make you feel valued.